a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time you said is coming over you. You're wishing upon a star. You're wishing it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters, the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. Good evening to George, Mitch and Joe, and good evening to everybody in the chat tonight. And apologies for the late start. Technology sometimes in the Middle East does get on the wrong wavelength, Mitch, I would say. But Newcastle certainly not on the wrong wavelength. Another win, another 5 goals. Midweek, and of course last weekend a wonderful 4-1 win against Manchester United sees Newcastle now into 3rd place and 1 foot in the Champions League. Tomorrow, of course, a big game which we'll be looking forward to and looking ahead to in the second half of the show. And congratulations, I guess, in order to Yano in the chat, who has had the all clear with cancer. Finally, a great moment for him and a great moment for his family as well. Pleased for you, mate. We've followed you on the journey, so delighted to hear that news. Absolutely. And yeah, great news, wonderful, good way to start the weekend with news like that. So yes, plenty to talk about tonight, and as we have done, I guess, in the last few weeks, is we've just, we've been positive, and I've loved these little pictures that have been created in recent weeks with Eddie. We've still got no news on Eddie. But Junior Turner created this one. Junior's got a new single out, by the way. Make sure you download it. But that's absolutely fantastic, that, isn't it? I hope Eddie is okay. No official confirmation from Jason Tyndall today about Eddie's condition, and I would suggest that we wait until we hear from the club before we say anything about that. Hopefully he will be coming home soon and he will be back in the dugout as soon as possible. But Jason Tyndall doing a great job at the moment. Big thank you to everybody who helped us as well last week, raised so much money for John Joe. I think it got up to about 1,900 quid this week, so that was a big thank you to you guys. And £105 raised for the t-shirt which was the Ronaldo T-shirt last weekend for Age UK Dementia. And we have got another one. This one is a unique Peter Beardsley T-shirt signed by Peter Beardsley himself. Again, we are raising money for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia Connections. All you need to do is follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Steve Rafe, and get yourself onto the post and make a bid underneath. Opening bid's a £5, so anything over a £5 and you're in the mix. But all proceeds from these T-shirts, which Johnny Allen is knocking up and making for us, all proceeds will be going to Dementia Connections. So please, if you have a spare bit of cash this weekend, please make a bid on that. We'll come to the winner a little bit later in the program. Okay, George, I am going to move to my position and ask you about Jacob Murphy. This was on the BBC Sports account. Jacob Murphy, Premier League 24-25, games 29, goals 8, assists 11. What a goal he scored midweek as well. He's been on fire, as BBC Sports Twitter quite rightly pointed out. Does the winger deserve an England call-up? Thomas Tuchel was there watching the Manchester United game. He couldn't fail to be impressed because Murphy literally has been on fire.
Well, I mean, those words weren't just echoed by people after Wednesday. I mean, Eddie Howe said it himself before he was ill when he was talking about them, that there were worse players that have got themselves into an English squad than Jacob Murphy. And the other thing that I really like about that story is when the lad comes across, bearing in mind how long he's been with her, he's had to go through some fairly tortuous loan periods because of other managers and so on. He's still stuck with Newcastle United, and I'm pleased it's come up trumps for him. And when he's got the opportunity to speak publicly, he speaks very well. And in fact, we've got a very erudite dressing room at the moment. They all seem to know what to say at the right time and the right things, and it's just great. And then you can add to it. I mean, you've already mentioned Eddie, but I was fascinated by some of the negative stuff on Talk Sport and on little bit on Sky about the impact of Eddie not being there. Well, they got it totally wrong. It's actually worked in our favour because I think those players are busting the gut to show Eddie Howe that they're fine and that everything's working well. Eddie, we're doing okay. So I think it's actually gone in our favour. The other big thing about Jacob Murphy is that while there are people who don't necessarily see him as one of the stars, there are very few people who work harder than Jacob Murphy. Yes, he did his attacking bit, but there were a couple of times, as there is in all matches, when he was there at the back covering his fullback. He was there in midfield, covering a midfielder who got left upfield. And he just did it. It just all came right for him on Wednesday, and I was delighted for him. What a crack that goal was. Steve Hasty must get sick of me bending his ear when players are around the penalty area, and I keep saying to him, why the hell doesn't he put his foot through the lace? Well, Jacob Murphy put his foot through the lace on Wednesday. So I didn't need to say it because Steve Hasty turned to me and said, he put his foot through the lace there, George. Yes, he did. Wow, what a crack. And I believe when he said he intended it, and when you look at it and you're right behind it, you can see it was a shot. It wasn't a Tonali thing, although I've got to say that best thing Tonali could have done was just claimed it and shut up. But no, I think what's coming good for Jacob Murphy is a lot of hard work, both on and off the field, with Eddie Howe and the coaching staff. And the reward he's getting now is for that hard work, in my opinion. So wonderful. England, well, as I said at the beginning, there are worse players than Jacob Murphy that have got into the England squad. And at the moment, if anybody goes on statistics, he's top of the list now. You know, his assists and goals together put him out in front in the whole Premier League. Well, that's some sort of statistic to have on your CV. And yes, he may be 30 years of age. At one end, we always say, well, if they're good enough, they're old enough. Well, I think if you're old enough, you're good enough, you could still do it, and I don't see why not. So I wouldn't be upset if he was. I might be surprised, but certainly wouldn't be upset because the lads worked very hard.
Jacob Murphy for England. Then Joe, would you like to see him get a call up? Does he deserve a call up?
Just think about what you've just said there, Steve. Jacob Murphy for England. 18 months ago, even, who'd have thought? Testament to Jacob Murphy, of course. And again, hats off to Eddie Howe, Graham Jones, Jason Tindall, and the coaching team, because they're turning what are, and let's be honest, they're turning what are average footballers into international footballers. Jacob Murphy's absolutely unplayable at the moment. He's doing everything. I'm a traditionalist. I still live in a 4-4-2 world, and he's doing everything you want your right winger to do. He's in the right place. He's wide. He's hugging the touchline. He's whipping a demon ball in, and he's scoring fantastic goals. And statistically, had we have bought that footballer in the summer or in January, and he'd have turned out stats like that, it'd have been one of the greatest signings we've ever made. So you couldn't be happier for him. He's a Newcastle fan. He's a great guy, as George said. He talks really well. That smile is infectious. You can imagine him being one of the favourites in the dressing room. And fair play to him, And I think the England thing, I've always been a big believer, and I think England managers have fallen down in the past. Do we always pick? Do we always pick player on form, or do we pick them because they've got a name or they play for a big Southern club, for example? Well, I tell you what, if Tuchel's about picking players on form, he's already done it with Dan Burn. Why wouldn't he do it with Jacob Murphy? Because there cannot be a better right winger. I know Saka's just coming back into fitness. There can't be a better right winger in England at the moment. And as we keep saying, whether it's Tonali, whether it's whether it's Kieran Trippier, whether it's Bruno, whether it's Joe Linton, he's playing for Newcastle United. So, yeah, why don't we have another international? Because I tell you what, he bloody deserves it.
Would you like to see him in a white shirt of England, Mitch?
Look, if you're going to pick on form and stats, it's very difficult to make an argument against it at the minute. I mean, if you'd told me a month before the Carabao Cup final, suspension then injury, and that would go on the kind of run we've gone on, and that the people supplying the bullets for Isaac would be Murphy and Harvey Barnes, and when Isaac wasn't putting the ball in the back of their net, they were. That's not just testimony to the squad and to the players, but it's the togetherness and the development as it's gone along. We've known about his personality for ages. When we were over in Riyadh with them a couple of years ago, he had this kind of infectiousness that when he was in the room, it was difficult not to like him. I tell you a little bit like Willis Sula at the moment, and that's why I've got belief that that's the kind of personality that Howe and Tindall like in the squad and like to develop with the squad to keep somebody who's a little bit of human dopamine around. And that's what, but Jacob Murphy's added a bit of maturity to that now. And you're lad's absolutely correct. That was a shot. He meant every bit of that. But he's crossed for Shaw's header, for example, with a well-worked free kick. And you see how the players run to him to congratulate him. And he's part of that group, that team spirit. We're benefited from it. And if he gets the reward of an England call-up, he's earned every single inch of it through the years of hard work and effort he's put in particular in his time in a black and white shirt.
Yeah, fantastic to see the development in Jacob Murphy, and very similar to what we saw with the Jose Perez and of course Miguel Almiron as well. Those two names spring to mind, but it has been great, and yeah, it resounding in the chat. Everybody saying that Murphy should be given that opportunity maybe to wear the white of England, which would be fantastic, which would be great. My next question is actually for Mitch, because we've had an email which has come in from Ian Johnson. So this email says, "Hi Steve, I've been a viewer of Matters on YouTube since the early episodes. You continue to do a great job. I only have one bugbear. That is the use of the phrase Stockholm Syndrome, which always seems to be used out of context in the show. It peaked on this week's fans forum. See the definition at the end. I'm not sure if your fellow contributors understand the meaning, or maybe it's being quoted in a way that I haven't figured out. I would never raise this in the comments on the show, but maybe you need to educate the lads. As an aside, I live in West Cumbria now and attended a talking you arranged with Shearer at Whitehaven Golf Club a few years ago. Have you any plans to bring an event over here again? Also, I must get around to sending you the memories of my first ever game against Leeds United on Boxing Day 1973. Keep it up. Cheers, Ian." Thank you, Ian. And his definition of Stockholm Syndrome is: Stockholm Syndrome is a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. Emotional bonds can possibly form between captors and captives during intimate time together, but these are considered irrational by some in light of the danger or risk endured by the victims. So, Mitch, as the person who, back in the days of Mike Ashley, introduced the phrase to the podcast, I thought it was only right to give you the opportunity to say why we use it on here and in what context you meant it when you used it.
The context I mean it in is the fact that for years we got used to thinking a certain way under Mike Ashley. We got used to saying, "Oh, well, we're cutting our cloth to suit." And a lot of people got very almost comfortable with that. That was it. There was nothing to fight for. There was nothing. There was no hope. There was no joy. But they just went along with it. They turned up. We supported the team. We turned up in numbers. We've historically been worse than the Mackhams at one thing. When things go wrong on WSA, they vote with their feet. We don't. We tend to still keep turning up. And we have this emotional bond with the club, no matter who the owner is, that keeps us coming back for more. And that's the context in which I've used it, is that we got comfortable with Ashley's lack of ambition. And I think a lot of people did get comfortable with that. So that's why I use that in that context. I get that, it's probably being overused now. And maybe it is being taken out of context. But that's where I started it from. It was that line of thinking that so many people had just become accepting of Mike Ashley's way of being and way of running the club. That was the way it was always going to be, and there was never going to be an end to it. So this is a lot. So we'll keep supporting the club, and so be it. Whether I am misusing that term on that, I don't know, but that was the way I interpreted it and used it in the first place.
No, it was good. It was the right way to use it, I think. And I guess some people just like the sound of it. But there you go, Ian. We've addressed the elephant in the room, if you like. And I know it wasn't a criticism at all. So thanks for that, Ian. But I hope that makes it a little bit easier.
It's really important for people to understand. I know I'm verbose at times, and God, I come out with some real shite. And I can be terribly obtuse sometimes, and like somebody commented a couple of weeks ago, good God, that's a load of words that I've not understood in one go. And again, I get that. I know what I'm like, particularly when I get on a run. I guess that's a combination of being a little bit of an aberrant thinker at times. But no, I think it's always important that if somebody wants to discuss something like that, it should be discussed.
Yeah, me too, 100%. Going to move on. Thank you to people who do email. If you want to email the show, it's very easy. nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. We do get them, we do read them, we do respond to you, and we do use your topics on the show as well. If there's something that you want to talk about that maybe you're a little bit shy, don't know how to use the chat. And one of those people is Jimmy Wilson. Big shout out to Jimmy Wilson, who we finally met this week before the match. He came in to see quite a few of us who were together before the match against Manchester United. It was great to see you, Jimmy, and don't be a stranger, you know where it are. And Jimmy Wilson, who is the provider of most of the tweets of the week, I've got to say, him and Stephen Kennedy keep me well supplied, although I do have to go through them with a fine tooth comb, certainly Stephen Kennedy's. But yes, Jimmy and Stephen have kept me going for a couple of years with tweets of the week, and they're very much appreciated. But it's always great to put a name to the face, and we've finally done it with Jimmy. So it was great to meet you, Jimmy, and thank you for that. Okay, plenty to get through tonight as always. I am going to take another email though from Casey Kellum. Casey, good evening. Hi, Steve. Been thinking a lot about the stadium plans just recently, and it's going to break my heart to move from St James's Park, but it's clear now that it needs to happen. Is it crazy of me though to want a stadium design that looks and feels exactly like St James's Park, just a lot bigger? Could you imagine how amazing St James's Park would look if the Gallowgate and the East Stand were as big as the Leazes End? That is exactly what I want from a new stadium, as I'm not a fan at all of these modern designs. Thanks, Casey. Now, I love this email, George, because it's a completely different concept. This isn't about where we should be moving to or if we should be moving. This is about the design of the stadium. What do you make about Casey's email there, that the preference for Casey would be that we have a stadium that looks more or less like St James's Park, just bigger?
And she might well get a wish. I think that there's any changes at all, there won't be sort of so different on the outside. It will all be the same height and shape all the way around, a bit like the Spurs ground. Where the changes will be inside the ground. At the moment, at St James's Park, like many of the older grounds, there are cavernous spaces underneath where you sit, underneath where people are eating meals, that stay empty 7 days a week and could be filled with all sorts of things: squash courts, badminton courts, meeting rooms, mini cinemas. All could go underneath all the stuff that goes on the top. So I think you'll get your wish. You'll get a stadium that's fairly uniform above ground, but what's inside will be vastly different to the wasted space that we've got at the moment. There's so much space inside the ground that we don't use at all for anything. So the corporate things get used, but there's still huge spaces that could be used for all sorts of things. Like I say, other sports like squash and badminton and even maybe a tennis court. You know, all of that could be incorporated in the new design, but all that would happen inside. The outside would still be a St James's Park, as far as I can see. And if you look at Spurs and you look at even bigger ones, look at the Bernabeu, they're basically similar all the way around. It's what's happening underneath and around the changes and the way they can change the pitch and all that sort of thing. That's all going to happen. But I'm certain in terms of the aesthetics that you're talking about, I'm with you. I'd be quite happy with a St James's Park that was uniform all the way around. The current one would be amazing if it hadn't been for the planners not allowing us to do what we wanted to do for light issues. Well, there was light issues, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm a naval architect, not an architect. But in my opinion, the new building materials that they have now, that wouldn't even be a problem, in my opinion, because what you would get on the East Stand would be an almost glass structure that wouldn't interfere with the daylight at all. So, you know, all of that's going to change. But I would welcome Katie's idea. It's a good question, that to have a stadium that looked homogeneous all the way around would be brilliant, to call it St James's Park. Of course, there are issues about the roof. Or do we have a roof? Is it retractable? Well, of course we'll have all of that. That's brilliant. But that shouldn't change what you've got in mind about it all looking the same all the way around. So good question and very thought-provoking. But it sets me off on my hobby horse about the vast spaces on St James's Park that are now, in fact, many grounds around the country that are completely wasted at the moment and could be used for all sorts of things, just with a little bit more thought. And addition to that, new materials now, and new glues and that sort of thing when you're building structures now, where you couldn't do it because you couldn't weld it or that sort of thing. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. They've got glue for everything now. I mean, if you're like cruises, those cruise ships that are many stories high, you'd be shocked to probably realize that they do that because they don't have to weld it, so there's no metal, so they just use bloody glue. So so all of those modern things would give you, Katie, the stadium you're looking for, in my opinion. Good question.
Yeah, so Casey's question, Joe, thoughts on a replica stadium?
Can we just stay where we are and leave it alone? I agree. I think for years, when we've been talking about ground development and St James's Park expansions, that computer generated model that makes the stadium exactly the same all the way around just looks absolutely phenomenal. And I think that that was always the dream, wasn't it, given what's behind the East Stand? If only there was a way we could have built it, I think we would have done, and we should have done, and it would have been absolutely incredible. However, I was walking up on Wednesday night and I just glanced up just as I got to the corner where the stack is, and it's looking a bit grey, isn't it? It looks a bit grubby. It doesn't look as beautiful and as white and as pristine as it once used to. And I think one of the benefits of these fancy stadiums, as long as it doesn't look like a circus tent like our colleagues in Manchester are going to get, I can see the appeal of having one of these fancy wraps and it's all singing, all dancing with sponsors kind of plastered all over it, and bringing us up to the modern day, because I think that's the one thing, as George is alluding to there, I think that's the one thing St James's Park lacks, isn't it? That kind of modern feeling. Yes, we've just got the fancy advertising boards now that move and stuff like that, but we do, we're miles behind Wembley, we're miles behind Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, and some of the big teams in Europe. So I think if we are going, I think I've said all along, I think Saudi Arabia, I think PIF, should I say, will want something sparkly and shiny and big and beautiful. I'm not entirely sure that'll replicate St James's Park, although I, for one, would vote for the idea because I think it'd be brilliant. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll be a big fancy spaceship, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. It's all about opinions. Mitch, a replica of St James's Park as near as damn it is Casey's suggestion.
Difficult to do. But if you look at something like the Alliance Arena, and strip away the modern aesthetic facade. See, I'm off with me bloody words again, aren't I? And then have that facade a bit more like what St James's Park looks like. And that wouldn't be a million miles away from what Joe's just described as the 3D projection with everything at the same height and it looking amazing. You can get that aesthetic. That the aesthetic's not the problem. I think the problem to make it feel like St James's Park is twofold. St James's Park has been built up in bits. It's been a piecemeal construction.
Yeah.
And so you'll never really replicate some of that, nor would you really want to probably from an architectural point of view. I still say to this day, if I was kidnapped and blindfolded and plonked in St James's Park, I would know where I was. I would know where I was from the smell and the touch, and the handrails. There's a uniqueness there. But I think part of that uniqueness is the soul of St James's Park. That's been built up over years and years and years, and that's why it's so hard to leave. I'm a great believer in energy in a place, and the energy in that place is that of my grandfather and my father. And my great uncle Tom and his brother, who I never knew, but I know his energy because it's in St James's Park. My uncle Jim, who left me recently, his energy's there as well. And so many other people, and so many of your relatives and your forefathers who've, you know, I'm really lucky on a platform like this to share family stories with my dad, with everybody. And that's all at St James's Park. And you'll never replicate that, ever. And there's no construction can replicate that. There's no construction could replicate the feel. Like I say, put me in a blindfold and take me there, and I'll tell you within seconds I'm in St James's Park. I'll just know it. Any new ground will have to build its own soul and its own story. And it won't have the 50s Cup final stories in there. It won't have the Fairs Cup stories in there. It won't have the years of nearly from then until now. And all of that makes St James's Park what it is, and that's what makes it special for all of us, and what makes it so difficult for some people to even contemplate leaving. And that's why I've always got that and understood that. And that's before you then start to add in location, city centre, heartbeat of the city, and all of that. So any new build would struggle to replicate anything of St James's Park for me, not architecturally, but just in its soul.
Yep, that's what a lot of people are saying in the chat as well. Still no news on the stadium, of course, but we are answering a question that one of our viewers sent in by email. And as I keep reiterating, if you do want to email us and you're not in the chat, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com is where to come to. Takes us nicely, George, into the petition, which people are mentioning in the chat. 11,000 signatures by people who are against Newcastle United moving the stadium the short distance to Leazes Park. We've been here before, George, with of course potentially moving stadiums under Sir John Hall back in the 90s, the last time Newcastle played free flowing attacking football and were looking to win domestic honours. And you know, we were beaten that time. Is there something different about it this time though, George? Because you know the park maybe has seen better days, you know, and trees, as somebody quite rightly in the chat has pointed out, can be relocated, and you know they wouldn't lose a park; they would probably gain a better one on the site of St James's Park if Newcastle were allowed to move.
And yes, I'm going to put my hands up and say I've got to be careful what I say because I don't want to upset friends, because I know that some of the people leading that particular group are friends of mine, and I you know, understand what they've got in mind, but there is a difference. When John Hall tried to do it, the council were powerful, the Leazes Park Protection Group were powerful, and they all had money and wanted to do it. They'd stop Newcastle doing this, doing that, doing everything. The difference now is none of them have money. We have money. And what they need to do, in my opinion, is to petition PIF and say, when you build this stadium, build us another park. They're determined to invest in the area. Well, why not build something nice around the stadium or near the stadium or what's left of Leazes Park and make it beautiful again? John Allen and I, when we walk home from matches to be picked up by his lovely wife, Tracy, we walk through Leazes Park. And it's great, except that every 20 yards, there's rats the size of bloody bunny rabbits running all over the bloody place. Soon as they get you get anywhere near them, and everything else about it. You know, there was a beautiful bandstand. Nothing's beautiful about it anymore. So if I was petitioning, I was part of that group, I'd be petitioning PIF now and saying, please, if you get your way with your stadium, help us put some nice green ground around the area or somewhere nearby to commemorate what's gone on in Leazes Park. I understand all the traditions, but you get to a point where if tradition's going to stifle any progress, then what's the point in the tradition anymore? So yeah, that's where I would want to go. I would support any work towards the Sweden PIF to talk to these people and try and do something which will put a green space in that community planning. They're committed to supporting the community. They've said it out loud often enough. So that could be one of the starts. But I've got to say at the moment, what's there at the moment worthy of preservation. I've got to tell you, the number of times John and I walk through that place, and the only thing that bothers us is the size of the rats that run all over the bloody place when we're walking through it. So I understand it, and as I say, there's some of the people leading this thing I still would regard as good friends of mine, but there's another direction, in my opinion, and that direction would be to build something new and green. If it's in the place of the old St. James's or even near the new stadium around the outside, it could be done. You know, none of it's impossible, and especially at the moment as the university's backing off the bit of the Hunters Moor that the halls of residence are on. There's all that space could be used as well. So you know, I understand the protest, but I think it's a one that could be coped with within the plans for the new stadium.
Okay. Thoughts on this, Joe? It's a petition. Petitions are important, and they can be raised, of course, in Parliament if they get past a certain amount, which I think this is completely surpassed 3 times over. Lots of people have got an opinion about it, but I guess everyone's opinion has to be heard. What do you think about it? And what do you think about George's suggestions?
Of course it does, Steve. You know, as much as we believe, as much as we think, you know, not everyone is a fan of Newcastle United. Not everyone's a football fan. So why, you know, I can see that people might think, well, why should we lose our space? I can't comment on the fact. I'm really surprised George walks through it with Johnny Allen. You can keep hold of your wallet, George. Just be careful. But there is, Steve, you know, and we've got to take everybody's opinion into account, because not everybody will be happy with losing City Centre Greenbelt, you know, no matter what state of repair it's in. Do I think that 11, 12, 15, 20,000 people will force people to, you know, to change their minds if, as we're led to believe, you know, it's as good as signed, sealed and delivered? Who knows? I would very much doubt it. But as George has said, you know, that makes perfect sense. This is about compromise. This is about, okay, we need our new mega structure and we need to use the parkland to build it on. However, when the day comes that St. James's Park isn't there, what if you got something that was bigger and better and newer and nicer and had less rats and had less muggers like Johnny Allen walking around on a night? You know, maybe, just maybe, it'll be better. And maybe that then will suit everybody. So, yeah, you know, what is better for the city? You know, a little bit of a kind of park that sounds and seems like it's in a bit of disrepair, or a stadium that's going to bring in millions and millions of pounds worth of revenue to the city annually. You know, I think I know where my vote would go if I was involved in kind of picking the venue. But I agree with you. Let's talk to everybody, whether it be the city council, whether it be, you know, residents of the city centre, users of the city centre, the university, as George has said, you know, we know their buildings surround the place. Let's get everybody on board for the benefit not only of Newcastle United, but of Newcastle City Centre, because that's better for everyone.
John Allen's gone quiet in the chat.
Thought you might have done. Yeah, thought you might have done.
Clearly now on the phone to his lawyer, so just a good time to put a disclaimer in. This is Borough Mag's opinion, Joe Walker, not Steve.
Hey, I'm not retracting it. I'll see you in court, pal.
Mitch, your feelings on you know the news that there's a petition?
The petition was interesting because it seemed to jump from 6,000 to 11,000 in a very short period of time, which always makes me think there's a rabbit off, or makes me smell a Leazes Park-sized rat somewhere in terms of somebody organising something. And it also seems to be linked with the 20th Century Society getting involved, saying that the East Stand is a structure risk from the stark concrete aesthetic of the 70s. Yes, it should be at risk. It's not fit for purpose and hasn't been for a long time, since it was the new stand and it was an exciting place to go to. It makes me then ask the question, how many people on those that petition have a local interest, have an actual local interest, and how many of them have actually been in Leazes Park recently? I went through Leazes Park quite a lot in 1990 when I lived in the halls of residence up at Castle Leazes. And I can tell you now, at night, that wasn't necessarily a nice journey then.
No.
That was in 1990. What it's like now, I don't even want to consider. Thank you very much. It was a place where in 1990, my fellow students who were resident in Castle Leazes were told not to go through the park at a certain time at night for their own safety. Again, I'm told it's worse now. What has the park actually had done with it of late? Well, it's been mismanaged. It's been mismanaged by a number of private companies that took council funds and did naff all with it. And if you want a viable, nicely done green space, surely the sensible discussion is to have that with PIF and say, what you're doing with St James's Park once you move to your new location, and what's your intention to help us create a wonderful new green space there? Because it's very, very doable. Because I'm telling you right now, if PIF really wanted to be swines, they could move out to St James's Park and then just say, right, Newcastle City Council, that's yours. And the process of demolishing St James's Park would bankrupt Newcastle City Council at the moment. Would bankrupt.
Simple as that. Yeah.
They couldn't afford it. And so it's all very well wanting to have X, Y, Z, but Newcastle City Council could be in a position where effectively PIF give up and say, right, sod this, we're not staying in the city centre, we're off to a new site elsewhere. Oh, and this is now your problem.
Oh, he's gone. We've lost him. His internet's packed in, but there you're back.
Sorry, yeah,
you're back.
And this is now your problem too. You know, it's a very delicate conversation, and I think people need to be aware of the much bigger picture. And it's why I've said all along, I have every confidence in the owners in Newcastle United that they want to do the right thing by Newcastle United and the fans. I have zero confidence in the bodies that they have to interact with in their ability to make that happen. And I still stand by that right now.
Well, and Neil, can I add, as I started with at the beginning, none of the people that I have to interact with have any money. Council, university, you name it, they're all strapped for cash in a big, big way. So, that's a conversation that would benefit all of them with PIF, who have time and again announced how they want to put development money into our city and into our region. And that seems to be not a bad place to start.
Nope, definitely not. Okay, plenty to get through. Time for a little bit of this. DM, where we ask you to send in photos of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. And we've got this one from Richard Wilkinson. Met Shearer in Newcastle Airport on my way to Vegas. Never been so nervous to ask for a photo with someone. Great photo, Richard. Thank you for sending that in. And if you've got a photo to send in to us, simply send it to the email address nufcmatters1892@gmail.com, or follow me on X at Steve Wraith, and you can send it and we will feature it on the show. And it's good evening to Phil Scott, who emailed us earlier in the month. Just getting round to this now. He says, question, how do Wor Flags get the sentiment and mood so right, lads? Silver Foil, Carabao Cup, Eddie Howe, History Maker and Sam Fender lyric for all those who didn't make it through the night. Just read them and think, yes, that is stupendous. Spot on. Now, the Keegan banner is what I'm going to focus on with this one. George, the Keegan display against Manchester United had been postponed from earlier in the season. But it was wonderful to see that. A lovely tribute to Kevin. He wasn't there, of course. He was busy with his grandkids on the day, and he had been in the city a couple of days previous to that doing a talk in. But they do get it right. They do get the sentiment. And I loved Alan McKenzie's suggestion in the chat there earlier when we were talking about the stadium and the new stadium. Maybe making it a bit easier for Wor Flags with, hoists and stuff like that to make the flag displays even bigger and better and easier to manage and manipulate. But they do get it right, don't they? And, for a fan group who, yes, we know most of them, they like to remain anonymous, and they do have their own little disputes from time to time amongst themselves, like everybody does. But you know what? It's been a great idea, that, and obviously the club have helped them on big occasions as well. When we played Sunderland in the FA Cup, for example, they've been involved in various things. They're often at various functions. I think we've been sent something this week where they're at a wedding, somebody's wedding. They've supported Sam Fender. Sam Fender supported them. There's so many different offshoots have come from this, apart from the match. But the match itself, they get it right, don't they? And it's definitely helped, George. It's definitely helped create a bigger and better atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, you're going to set me off on the occasion thing again, aren't I? I keep saying to you all that when I was a kid, going to the match was wonderful, but it was just part of the Saturday occasion. We had a routine. We went to we sometimes went in very early, and if there was something on the Tatler, we'd go into the Tatler. We'd come out and have ice cream and Mark Tony's and do all of that. And for me as a kid, it was absolutely fantastic. And the top off was the match. And then if we won, they would do something else on the way home. It was an occasion. Now that disappeared for a while, and certainly disappeared dramatically while Ashley was our owner. My godfathers. I mean, there used to be 10 of us. Neil remember, used to 10 of us go sitting in the by 1892 together, and it was fantastic. Saturday was our football occasion, and what killed it? Mike Ashley and his bloody refusal to buy plastic containers for mushy peas. So it huffed enough of ours for 8 of them not to come back, and that's still not back. So I love Wor Flags. When it started, I could see it just doing what I've said, turning the match into more than just the match, and the whole thing into an occasion. And some of the nights we've had, I mean, PSG thing, I think everybody agrees that's one of the greatest nights we've had at St James's Park, and it was hugely enhanced with what they did, and it must. I'm sure, particularly the players from the continent who haven't played much in England, to walk out to that and all of that going on around must have a huge impact. I mean, I was laughing at the way Sky Sports were bulling up how fantastic Villa fans had been at their PSG match. It was nout compared to ours, absolutely nout. And the big difference was that Wor Flags set the tone and always do, and they do get the tone right. The poppy display was right. The Keegan display the other night was spot on, absolutely spot on for somebody who totally deserved what they did. it was sad he wasn't there, but that was a by the by. That was a sad accident of time, nothing more. And they just deserve everything, every help that they can get. As terms of the future, well, of course, when you build a new stadium, you can build all the things you want into it. If you want to build in hoists and hangers for flags and this sort of thing, I mean, you can build hangers all over the place when you're building from scratch. And you wouldn't have to have people abseiling down the front of a bloody hotel to put up a picture of anyhow. They'd have the hooks and built into the roof, and you could drop it from there. So no, it's Wor Flags have changed the face of the games that I go to. They have made it an occasion again, and I look forward to seeing them as much as as the kickoff. It's all part of the game now. Well, my match experience, and what it must do to young people who go for the first time, it must really get wide-eyed for some of the kids that go in for the first time. So, and it obviously, the way I'm twittering on, how it's affected me. But I think they deserve every help, every plaudit, and they have all my congratulations for what they've done for us as fans and for our football club.
Joe, the Keegan display was amazing. Lots of people talking about it actually in the chat. People asking why Keegan wasn't there. Well, he was never planned to be there. And people asking if he's stubborn. I mean, only Kevin Keegan can tell you why he doesn't come. We have a fair idea, but it's only our opinion. But I mean, you don't need Kevin Keegan there to see it. I'm sure he's picked up the media, and some of his friends will have sent him plenty of photographs and videos of it. But yeah, I mean, that display itself, especially the Man United game, I thought was great timing. It actually worked out better. The only, and it wasn't a criticism. The only thing I would have added to it was I'd love it if we beat them on the bottom of one of the flags. I think it would have been great. But yeah, it was great, wasn't it? It helped it helps the atmosphere, Joe. And somebody's pointed out we discussed this last week. Well, we did, but Phil, I don't think saw the program. Plus, I wanted to talk about the Keegan display, so it's a nice segue into it. And what's your thoughts on it, Joe?
We didn't need that quote, Steve. We were always going to batter him, weren't we? Yeah. I think. I mean, what can I say? I can't really better what George has just said. It's phenomenal. I mean, the logistics behind it, the way that they calculate it and who has to hold what colour bit up where, when and what, that's the bit that fascinates me. Those giant surfers that go up, and then, we do kind of certain things for certain games. And then Wednesday night was brilliant because the BMX, my favourite flag, the BMX for sale, was back out again. And I agree with George. I mean, some of these displays, if not all of them, absolutely blow me away. I've taken to kind of going out a little bit earlier now and trying to get through my pint a bit quicker, just to go out and soak it up. And I'm 46 this year. I would have loved to have stood there as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old and just looked up at it all. It's absolutely brilliant. The black and white, as much as I'm a big fan of the grand displays, I just love seeing the black and white. I love the whole stadium, just the colour, the flags everywhere. And I think it does. I think it builds up. It must give those players a lift. I mean, imagine being Anthony Gordon or Dan Burn or, Alex Isak, when you're walking out of the tunnel and you glance up and there's a giant shirt or a giant photo of you, and to pay kind of tribute to what you do for us. It must give you another 5, 10, 15% before you've even kicked off. And in the same way, it makes me wonder what opposing fans and opposing players think, because the people talk about the yellow wall in Dortmund, don't they, and how intimidating that must be. You get that atmosphere right at St James's Park, and Wor Flags play a big part of that. I think teams are beat before they've started. It gives us a lift. It must look magnificent on the TV. The broadcasters must love it. And I think it just gives us another uniqueness. It's another part of Newcastle United and the fan base and the atmosphere we can create that not many football clubs can do. And, I see it and I'm not going to start having a pop at people, but there's certain football clubs close to kind of where I live, who kind of try it, and it's a bit half-assed, and they give it a go. They couldn't get anywhere near. You couldn't get anywhere near what Wor Flags do. So fair play to them. Long may it continue. And I can't wait to see the NUFC Matters one, because it'll be brilliant.
Well, there is a flag, thanks to Paul Chollerton. I will be able to put it up once we've done Tweet of the Week. Paul has incorporated our NUFC Matters logo on there. And there's also one, of course, at Dubai Mags. NUFC Matters does feature in the Dubai Mags bar, which was the very first NUFC Matters flag. But big thanks to Paul Chollerton. He's put a couple of podcasts on there. I'll stick it up a little bit later on. But yeah, Mitch, I mean, the Keegan one was just another great display, which got the temperament right.
Another great one, and done it the right kind of game for it. If he can't be there himself, I think that was the right game to drop that display into for a number of reasons. And you're right. I mean, they've given. There's two things I'll say about what have they got right. They've given something that everybody can connect to. At home and abroad, it's not just us in Dubai who are using flags now as well, as a few of the other worldwide supporters clubs are picking up on it. We have our own version of flags here, there and everywhere, and a few that are waved before kick-off in sync with what's happening in the ground. And it creates what I think has become a very unique atmosphere for the Dubai Mags. And I'm very proud of what we've created here. And as I keep saying, everybody involved and everybody who just turns up, it's not mine, it's not Julie's, it's not the committee's supporters club. It's everybody who turns up supporters club, and everybody buys into it. And one of the things everybody buys into is the flags, and that's the connection that Wor Flags has given them. And the other thing I'll say about Wor Flags, about why do they get it right so often? I'm going to use a word, and I use this word with Stu often when Stu says to me, "Bloody hell, why are so many people tuning in, the professionals, and watching me speak?" And the word is authenticity. Yeah, Stu is unapologetically and authentically him. And Wor Flags are authentic. We get it, they get it. And so when you're authentic, people respect that. They mightn't always agree, but they'll still respect it. And I think that's huge. That in my experience, and I think Mr. Hasty would back us up on this, when we were going around doing the talk-ins, building the original NUSC into NUST, to go out to Towel or Social Club and reach out to somebody and have a chat with them and be open and honest and be authentic, it meant so much. And it means so much to our fan base. And it's why, without the decry some of it, it's where some of the podcasters who get criticism fall short. Their authenticity is not there, in my opinion. And if you are authentic and honest and give it from the heart, people respect that and people connect to that. And I think Wor Flags do that every time. I think they do have a very good way of reading the room. And I don't think they've ever really put a foot wrong. And I think if they ever did, they would hold their hands up in the aftermath and go, yeah, we probably didn't read the room there. Honest and that authentic. Because nobody's there for ego. That's all being wheedled out from what I can see and tell. Because that's always when it falls down, is when egos take over. And nobody's there for the ego side of it. Mainly because I reckon there's not many people who could name 10 names. And that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Yeah. And fair play to you all for giving up the time and giving up time you could spend with your family sometimes and time you could spend at home. But you're giving it to us, the worldwide fan base. And that needs respected. And I think that's why people connect with it.
Okay, halfway through the show, plenty of great comments coming in. Keep them coming. We're going to have a quick ad break back after this.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up, 27th of June 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatters.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Cluny. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and meet some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatters.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk.
Okay, welcome back. Just a reminder, we do have another T-shirt up for grabs for the Age UK North Tyneside Dementia Connections. It's signed by Peter Beardsley. It is a one-off T-shirt. Thank you to Johnny Allen for sorting these out. And Chris Greenup is the highest bidder at the moment, £15. So if anybody wants to beat that, get yourself onto X. And if you just find me at Steve Wraith, you can bid underneath the actual post for the T-shirt, as Chris has done, and you could be in with a chance of winning it. So £15 is the current bid for that. Okay, as always, plenty to get through on the Amigos on a Friday night. And if you are of a nervous disposition or easily offended, time to go and put the kettle on. And as it's Easter, we've had a few gifts and a few JPEGs. I don't give who didn't have a starter. It's 20 quid each. Good start on the Easter weekend. This one as well. Very good. I don't know who on earth does these, but there's plenty of them kicking around. This one, Jesus, you have returned. In what meaningful way could we honor your death and resurrection? Eggs, says Jesus. Not quite how it happened. And a shout out to Judas for the upcoming long weekend. Yes, I told you. They do get quite offensive. Animals make an appearance on here. Sometimes time to make Easter eggs. This is how it's done, allegedly. And following on in the animal kingdom, guess what this famous phrase is, lads.
Are we sticking another shrimp on the barbie?
Well done, Joe. That's a point to Joe. Don't worry, we haven't got any more of them. My dad once told me that if I put a potato in my swimming trunks, I would attract more women. He forgot to tell me to put the potato in the front. And my son loves dinosaurs, so his grandma made him a birthday cake. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. We've got no Bjork
Wow.
this week. No Bjork this week, but we do have an alternative. I told you this was becoming a thing. Madonna kebab.
Oh,
And Craig has become a bit of a regular on this show. He puts these up on social media quite a bit. Although I wouldn't try this at home, folks. Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Craig's becoming the new Jimmy and Stephen. There's no doubt about it. Signs, we like a few signs. Skinny dicks halfway in.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the divorce specialists, ditch her quick and hide. Street names as well. Focus quite heavily on this show. Glue Hill, please stick to the pavement.
Yeah.
And recycling bins, I do like these every now and then. Clothes and shoes, but please no more Man United shirts. famous shop signs. Abracababra. I love that. Love it. And I love it when we get a new one. And burger menus. No, bugger menus. A veg bugger. A chicken and cheese bugger. A cheese bugger. A bacon cheese bugger. A special bugger. Wow. Unbelievable.
Oh, they're not too dry.
Definitely not. Yes, something interesting in the Easter mystery dip. Some pug nipple tassels. Perfect for your pair of puppies. This sign is on a lamppost in America. Lost unicorn. If found, please stop doing drugs. And we've got a few dog ones. We miss the dog lookalikes, don't we, with Steve Hasty. I mean, we do still get lookalikes, but I don't feature them anymore. There is Steve Hasty doing a steward's job. But I understand somewhere Steve will be laughing at that. But I have got a few dog ones this week. Three in a row. Please tell me you saw the same thing I did. Yes, it's a dog's tail, everybody. It's a dog's tail. And when your meat's looking extra photogenic and you go to take a pic of it, but your front camera's on. And people wonder why I'm in the dark on a Friday. Wireless doorbells in their charging pods. Oh, see, that's cute, that one. That's cute. Not offensive at all. Very cute. Am I fat? Here's some answers, lads. Boomers, you could lose a few pounds. Millennials, you look fine, don't worry. Gen Z, oh my God, we don't body shame. You're absolutely beautiful. Gen X, I know 5 fat people and you're 4 of them. Very clever. Picked up a hitchhiker, lads, this week. Seemed like a nice guy. After a few miles, he asked me if I wasn't afraid that he might be a serial killer. I told him that the odds of 2 serial killers being in the same car were extremely unlikely. Well, I like a bit of music on here. Some subtle jokes as well. Here's the 2 combined. Nice resume, Mr. Hendricks. But are you experienced? And I don't know how people get eaten by sharks. I mean, how do you not hear the music? And we played with this, guys, to train for this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And when you're over 50 and the doctor tells you to put ice on where it hurts the most. And you know shit's about to get real when next door's dog puts its trainers on. My neighbours banged on my door at 3:30 last night. Can you believe that? Luckily, I was still up playing my guitar. They shouted, "How about a little respect?" I said, "Well, I'm not a big Aretha Franklin fan, but okay, this one's for you."
Oh, dear.
And you're so vain. You probably think the sign is about you. You're so vain. Ugly Camel, thanks for this one on Twitter. Not sure this is Three Amigos friendly, but pronounce Vank, by the way. At the Vank Mountain in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany, this Vankbahn brings you to the Vank House on top, where there's a Vank View observation area. Vank tickets cost €27, but there's also an unlimited Vank leisure pass for £175. That's pretty handy. I hope I can come here some days, says Ugly Camel. Thank you for that. And a sign on the side of it, I love Vank. So there we go.
Is that near the Vankdorf Stadium?
I possibly is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And moving on swiftly. Thanks to Stephen Kennedy, one of the few I could show this week. For most of 1982, Sue Barker and Cliff Richard dated. I guess she went unseeded that year.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend's been so excited ever since I asked for a threesome. I believe we have a misunderstanding. Star Wars. Sorry, Your Excellency, we don't have that George Michael album in stock. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
He did the voice.
And he has the best cat house ever. Yes! Look at that, man. Look
Wow.
at Jimmy, I don't know where you get these, mate, but honestly, that's absolutely brilliant. That goes with the letterbox last week, and then that inside. Fantastic, honestly, mate. An Indiana man followed this Chinese spy balloon for 194 miles before he realized it was bird shit on his windshield. And yes, lads, we've got another Facebook one. Amber Leaf, how much for a 30G? Very good. Anyone else sit on Rightmove looking at £325,000 houses with approximately £2.98 in their bank account? And Suzanne Bell put, my front entrance is quite dark. What can I do to lighten it up and make it look more inviting? George Armour, who's probably locked up now, said shave it. For her birthday, I took my wife to an orchard and we stood there looking at the trees for half an hour. Not the Apple Watch she was expecting, apparently. And accidentally wore a green T-shirt in Asda, says Debbie. Long story short now, I'm covering Sandra's shift on Sunday. Top three. My boss got a new chair to match his management style. And Gary's love for Doris has taken a wrong turn, sadly, lads. And the winner this week it's sometimes the most daftest ones that make me laugh. A guide to British owls, lads. Barn owl, snowy owl, tawny owl, tea owl.
Oh.
And you will have noticed we've got no action figures this week, and that is because we've been marked safe from personalised action figures today, lads, officially. So thank you to everybody who sent them in. I've seen enough of them to last a lifetime. If you've got any tweets, NUFC...
today would have been taken off air.
NUFC Matters 1892@gmail.com is where to send them to, or you can send them to me on X at Steve Wraith, and we will feature them next week. Okay, we had some great questions coming in earlier on. I think one or two of them we can come to. Lee said, is the current state of the Premier League perfect for a Mike Ashley type owner? What I mean is that newly promoted are too bad to stay up. So if you were established, you can profit while spending little, George.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only is it perfect, it's ideal for him. If he bought a club and tried to do what he did with us, and the only instruction to the manager was keep winning the Premier League, yeah, it's absolutely there for him. And if they happen to slip up and go down, well, he just spends a little bit of money to get them back up again. Oh, a yo-yo club would suit Mike Ashley down to the ground, as long as he got a coat hanger for all his stuff that he sells on the stands in the restaurants and around the ground, all for free or nearly free, which he did for us for all those years. So yeah, it's a good question. It is, sadly. I mean, I think isn't this the second or is it the third year that the bottom three are the three that came up again, which says it all, doesn't it? And one of those clubs would suit Ashley down to the ground. Stay up a couple of years if you can, go down, come straight back. Yeah, he would love that. Absolutely love it.
Is it a good time for a Mike Ashley type owner in the Premier League at the moment? I get what he's saying. I mean, my views would be there's never a good time for a Mike Ashley type owner, Mitch.
No, I agree.
No, there isn't, mate. It was interesting. I saw a Sheffield Wednesday fan suggesting that on Twitter this week. You know, because I know they're at odds with their owner, and their owner's pretty much washing his hands of the club, saying, I'm not putting any more money in and fuck you all. So I can see why an owner like Ashley would be almost appealing, because he allows them to stay afloat without necessarily overstretching the ambitions of the club. I mean, this Sheffield Wednesday fan was like, oh, he had 2 promotions. Yeah, because you relegated with twice, mate. You've got to have the relegation first to get the promotion.
Yeah.
But he would be happy bouncing up and down between leagues and taking parachute payments and taking the chance of getting promoted again, because he knows the formula for that. But I think this is more a reflection on how poor the ownership checks and balances are in the Football League. They are appalling, absolutely appalling. There's some owners of clubs in the Football League who should be nowhere near football clubs, and yet the ownership and directors tests for the Football League seems to be based on nods and winks and imaginary bits of paper, and whether they serve the right biscuits at the interview. And that's what seems to be get people in to own Football League clubs. And I speak to fans of many different clubs over here. As a result, really, of what we're doing as a fan base here. And some of the other supporters groups want to see what we're doing and find out what's different. And we speak to some of them, and there are some disastrous situations with clubs in the Football League. And I can see why Mike Ashley would almost be appealing. But the caveat is, forget any idea of hope, forget any idea of ambition. You will be forever in advertising hoarding for his other businesses. Words of a guy I spoke to who used to be on the board of Sports Direct, who was a patient of mine while he was in Dubai. I think he's now in Singapore. Mike's not for football. Was always the feeling within the group, and they couldn't understand it when he got involved with football. And I think anybody who sees Mike Ashley as a saviour, God bless you, because your owner must be an absolute twat.
Good evening, Steve.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
Don't worry, mate. Don't worry, mate. The question was: is the time right, really, for in football in the Premier League for like a Mike Ashley type owner, because the the teams that come up from the Championship are so poor that, you know, you don't have to spend a fortune to stay in the Premier League if you've got the right mix of, you know, the right mix of talent at the club. It's just a hypothetical question. We don't want to give them too much time on the show.
I think the very straight answer is there are probably lots of Mike Ashley's already in the EFL in terms of their attitude towards how they want to run the football clubs, and not really want to get involved in what's going on the pitch, unless they're making money from it. Mike didn't come into it, I don't think, to make money. I think he came into it for a whole host of business reasons, i.e. making money not from the football club, but from his activities off the field. We've seen that, you know, charlatans who come in and try and buy a football club and then immediately want to sell off training grounds and sell the freehold or the leasehold on their own pitches and stuff like that. They immediately want to move to a new ground because they see the opportunity to pick up a piece of land relatively cheap where they can put a prefabricated ground on and make an absolute killing on the real estate of where the existing ground is. And then you look at clubs like Bury and people like that who really, really, you know, fans have gone through the mill with in terms of the way that their owner or previous owner treated them. But it's happened at Southend, it's happened at Bury, it's happened all over the EFL. Just all I would say was exactly what Mitch has said, and probably a little bit stronger. Keep well clear.
Yeah, same advice from you, Joe.
I don't care as long as he buys Liverpool. I couldn't give a shit. You know, the league's got one, haven't they? Look what's happening at Manchester United. You know, Sir Jim's picked Mike Ashley's mantle up and beautifully carried it on. The interesting bit for me, Steve, is that, you know, if you think back to where we were, you know, the fit and proper owners and directors test. Would he pass that? You know, after what he'd done with us, arguably, I think he kept his nose clean enough. But you know, we talk a lot about managers. You know, dinosaurs in the game. You know, dinosaurs move on, and you know, Mike Ashley was a dinosaur owner, wasn't he? What's in it for me? You know, bring them in cheap, improve them slightly, and sell them on for a massive profit, and put very, very, very little back in. So I can see why Mike Ashley might want, you know, Ipswich or, you know, Sheffield United or one of these teams. But is there any room in the game for them? Absolutely not. He needs to stick to what he does best, and that sells T-shirts, you know. I wouldn't inflict him on anybody. I wouldn't inflict him on the lot down the road, to be honest. Nah, time for the game to move on and time for blokes like him to get out.
You know, the other thing about Mike Ashley is it's not just what he does for the fans. It's the reputation he kills of managers. You know, you look at Alan Pardew as a perfect example. You know, I mean, Pardew, you know, his reputation was ruined at Newcastle just by association. If the truth be known,
and the damage he does to the brand.
Yeah.
People refuse to take up sponsorships. The whole idea of showcasing Sports Direct Arena in case we've got a better sponsor from somewhere. There was no better sponsor coming from anywhere because nobody wanted to touch with a curried barge pole.
Exactly.
You know, didn't want to be any associated with it.
And what a lot of people didn't realise at the time was what we did, Steve, with the gates, with Graham Cansdale and yourself and myself and one or two others when we got the old gates put up. And a lot of people, you know, criticised us at the time, but the number of people who get their photographs taken up outside it and see the benefit of it, it didn't actually go where we wanted them to be, but it was done for a purpose. It was done to keep that name St James's Park alongside St James's Park because he wanted to change it to the Sports Direct Arena or whatever, you know. Times have changed, however, haven't they? And I think, you know, I think we're probably more moved towards having a ground with a name to it other than St James's Park or with a sponsor attached to it, simply because it's not Mike Ashley, because it was the way he did it. It was his attitude towards it, his attitude towards the club, his attitude towards the supporters, the snubs that he made, that type of thing. And it it's one of those things we're seeing it at Man City now. I mentioned it last week. You're seeing it at Man City because there are issues with supporters at Man City. You know, they've won everything. They've won 6 league titles in the last God knows how many years. And they've got probably the best manager at going, and they've had the best squads, and they've got the most money. But there are certain aspects of how that club is being run at the moment. They're just starting to grate on supporters, and it's because we've rattled on about it for years and years. Lack of communication, lack of proper common sense communication, not lip service. And you're finding at Man City the people who are getting the brickbats, and it's not the club, it's the FAB, it's their fans advisory board and people like that. And these people get set up, they get put into a position, and then they're the ones who end up taking the brickbats. So you've got to be very, very careful. Let's hope it doesn't happen at Newcastle United. I'm pretty sure it won't. He says, touching wood. But it's certainly happening at Man City at the moment, and people might not be aware of it. But if you start to do a little bit of following on the various fan groups of Manchester City, you'll come across it. So better the devil you know.
You're right, and so many times it wasn't what Ashley did; it was the way he did it.
Yeah.
That was the problem. Sometimes the concept of what he wanted to do, in some respects, it made sense. But it was do you remember the renaming? And we at the time had some sort of relationship with the media officer, who did not know when they turned up with crowbars to lever the name off the side of the ground that they were coming to do that at 7 a.m.
Exactly.
And he was answering questions that you had no warning about. Nothing from above. It was the way he waited until an international break to drop things and hope that it would calm down after the 2 weeks. Oh, we're renaming your club and I've sacked the manager.
Yeah,
brilliant. Thanks for that.
Exactly. And I think the answer to Dean's point there is, one, the FAB is rattled up in non-disclosure agreements, and two, I very much doubt it, because I think the FAB probably hear rather than communicate in terms of discussion. I think they get told stuff.
We had an example last week with the international supporters groups, and the international member of the FAB was not warned that was going live at all, and it was a surprise to her. And it's still creating ripples now within international fan groups. And I think the problem we have with the FAB, and I think that's one thing I've counselled on already, and it's why the Man City FAB has gone the way it is. They've spent the last 4 or 5 years mostly protecting their relationship with the club, rather than actually addressing issues in an open and honest way. Yeah. And so now they're faced with having to address issues. They're finding how tied up with NDAs and other things that they are. So things they would like to communicate, I'm sure they didn't, because what they might find is they're booted from the FAB. And that's the nonsense of all of these things, and the way they're written and the way they're tied up with certain things, that it makes it very difficult for that to operate in the way that is intended, because protection of the relationship with the club becomes the paramount thing that everybody wants to do.
Yeah, certainly does, God. I remember those days of the gate. Yeah, it was it's definitely a good story. And
collaborators, I believe, was the word you...
Collaborators, that's right. Okay, got plenty, as I say, to still get through on the show tonight, and we've got a big game to look forward to. So let's start looking ahead to the Aston Villa game with our friend Scunny Mag, who will give you a few tips of where to go if you're going to Birmingham tomorrow. Mind the rubbish.
Happy Friday, folks. Villa up tomorrow. If you're heading down, everything you need next. Okay, Villa Park. It's located just to the north of Birmingham, out towards the M6, and your nearest train station is Whitton, which is just to the north of the ground. So if you are coming through Birmingham New Street, your cross-country trains will get you up to Newcastle. For those driving in, parking, it's changed a little bit recently. There used to be a fan car park just near the Yew Tree pub. That's now been developed into a staff car park, so that's not available anymore. There are local matchday ones that pop up. You'll be looking at a tenner. Failing that, chuck it in a city centre, pay and display, and away you go. Speaking of the city centre, let's do some pubs. If you're coming in on the train, just outside the station, across the road, the Shakespeare is just on your left. Dead handy. First one you'll come to. We went in there recently for the cup game against Birmingham, and it was okay, nice and full, but as soon as anybody started a song, the door staff were all over you. So it's a bit weird. I don't get it. It's like it wasn't unique to that place either. We went in somewhere else, somebody started a song and the door staff were on them again. It's like a Birmingham city centre thing. And that having been said, most of the pubs in the city centre, they're going to let you in. A few might have problems with your shirt, especially the Wetherspoons, but generally they're welcoming, they're friendly, they just don't like you singing. I suppose you can live with that and save your voice for the game. Anyway, rant over, moving on, just up the hill from the Shakespeare, going up Bennett's Hill, and you've got two next to each other. The Sun on the Hill is the first one, and the Briar Rose just next door to it is the Wetherspoons. Goes senses dizzy, get you to the front of both of those. Then there's another Wetherspoons called the Square Peg. It's on your way towards the ground, and that's probably a more popular one with people heading to Villa from the city centre. Right outside there's a bus stop. The number 7 will take you all the way to Whitton for the away turnstiles, and then if you're staying over, you've got Travelodge and Recent Voices Finest, and then your Holiday Inn Express is at Spoon Hotels Sparks. Heading up to the ground and on pubs near the ground worth mentioning, the Yew Tree and the Whitton Arms both used to be away friendly, but it no longer accepts away fans. But as you're moving up to the ground, you want to be on the north corner, as I mentioned. Access turnstiles Q at the lower block, and you might be able to get a beer. If it's got P on it, you're in the upper, and you won't be able to get a beer. But Mice Fires Small will get you into the check-in area in front of those turnstiles. And that's me done. Cheers. See you in the next one.
Thank you, Scunny Mag. As always, very good information, and everyone is going down. 3,000 Newcastle fans going to be in the away end. It is a 5:30 kickoff live on Sky Sports. And after a 1-0 win at West Ham and a 3-0 victory at Leicester, the Magpies are aiming for a third successive Premier League away victory. This will be their 9th in total on the road so far this season. The first meeting of the teams ended in a 3-0 home win at St James's Park. Another 3-point haul for Newcastle would seal their seventh Premier League double of the season so far. And the team news, well, no new injury issues. Sven Botman, Lewis Hall and Jamal Lascelles all still remain unavailable. However, Sven Botman is back on grass, and Jason Tindall said today that potentially he could be back in contention for next week's fixture. Aston Villa, along with Liverpool and Arsenal, well, Villa have lost just once at home in the Premier League this season, beaten 2-0 by Arsenal in August. Since then, 15 Premier League fixtures at Villa Park have brought 8 wins and 7 draws. Aston Villa hosted PSG on Tuesday in the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final tie. Trailing 3-1, they conceded 2 more goals before mounting this wonderful comeback, which fell at the final hurdle, didn't get forced into extra time and went out of the competition. And Jared Gillette, the best a man can get, is the referee. It's his third appointment in a Newcastle fixture this season. He took charge of the 1-1 home draw with Man City and the 4-3 win over Nottingham Forest at Gallagher. And VAR for this particular game is Michael Salisbury. So as always, we have some in-depth analysis from Toon Stato.
Hello everyone, the high-flying Eddie Howe Black and White Army coming back tomorrow in action against Aston Villa away from home. 2 teams in great form, Aston Villa with 4 consecutive wins in the Premier League, and the last time when they did 5 in a row was back in April 2023 when they also beat Eddie Howe's Newcastle 3-0. At the same time, Newcastle 6 wins in a row in all competitions, 5 wins in a row in the Premier League, and of course the Cup win back in March. When it comes to games against Aston Villa, Newcastle won their last 3 with scoring 3 or more goals. Only against Tottenham between 2006 and 2008, Newcastle has won more games in a row, 5, while scoring at least 3 goals in each of the game. And overall, Newcastle has won 4 of the last 5 games against Aston Villa, which is the same amount of wins as they registered in the previous 16 games before this period. Now, when it comes to away form, Newcastle has won 8 of the last 10 away games in all competition, including, of course, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. And the only defeats came at Anfield and at the Etihad. Overall, Newcastle has 19 away games this season and has won 10, which is a winning percentage above 53%, which is second highest in the entire history of the club. The best one in history is under Rafa Benitez in the Championship in 2016-2017. And what a season Jacob Murphy is having. Only in the Premier League, 8 goals and 11 assists. He's second in the Premier League for assists, and he needs one more goal involvement in order to make it 20 for the season. Who could have predicted this before? Let's see what happens tomorrow in the big game. How are the lads?
Thanks very much, Andre. Just want to point out that the T-shirt, we've got another couple of minutes to go on this, signed by Peter Beardsley. The highest bid at the moment is Denise Applewhite in the chat, £30 she has bid. All proceeds going to Dementia Connection. So please, anybody who wants to bid on that, please do. At Steve Wraith on X is the place to do it. Go on, Mitch.
I'm just going to say, has Andrea moved from recording these in his bathroom to Guantanamo Bay?
You never know which part of the world he's going to be in, Andre. He was in Newcastle, though. It was good to catch up with him at the weekend. And yeah, top man, Andre. Thank you very much for that. Interesting little stat, which I'm sure everybody is aware of, but I will repeat it, is this one. Since the cup final, Newcastle's goals have gone like this: 1-0 against West Ham, 2-1 against Brentford, 3-0 against Leicester, 4-1 against Manchester United, and 5-0 against Crystal Palace. So I guess it's time to ask the Toon Tipster if 6-0 is on the cards. Over to you, Joseph. Oh, he's on mute. That's a great start.
On mute. There you go. Let me just ask you again, Steve. Do it again. Rerun the show from the top. My phone. Someone's doing me edit on my phone. Right. Of course it is. 125-1. Aston Villa 0. Newcastle United 6. Oh. Get your mortgage on it because it's happening. Interestingly, though, in terms of the bookmakers, despite the form that we're in and despite the fact that they've had a big Champions League game at the weekend, for the first time in as long as I can remember, Newcastle United are not the favourites to win the football match tomorrow. Aston Villa, 11-8. It is marginal, and you can do the maths if you're that interested. But Aston Villa, 11-8. The draw is 13-5, which I think there's value there. Newcastle are 9-5, so that does just make Aston Villa slight favourites for the game. We are, though, just over evens to score first in the match, which again, you know, the form that we're in. Why not? Why not have a look at that? Both teams to score is 8-15, which means that goals are fancied, as always are, when Newcastle United play. Ollie Watkins, Marcus Rashford and Marcus Asensio feature high up for Aston Villa to score any time in the match. There's value to be had for any of those to get a goal, but never mind them. Alex Isaac, 23-20, so profit to be made. Harvey Barnes, the majestic Harvey Barnes, is 12-5 to continue his form. Ballon d'Or winner, Jacob Murphy, 18-5. Best midfielder in the world, Sandro Tonali, he's 17-2 to score. And Big Dan's gone back to doing Big Dan things. Maybe he only scores in the big games like at Wembley and stuff now. But Dan Burn is a very, very tempting 18-1 to score any time in the match. 1-0 Villa, 17-2. 2-0 Villa, 11-1. And 3-1 Villa is 12-1. 0-0 is a massive 10-1, and ones each is a tempting 11-2. 1-0 Newcastle, 9-1. 2-0 Newcastle, 12-1. And if you're fancying a penman, 14-1 to go to Villa Park to win 3-1. And what a result that would be. Nothing is more certain in world football this weekend than Joe Linton getting a yellow card. I think he'll just run riot tomorrow and start stampeding through the midfield. He is 17-10. to get a yellow card. And I've got to say, just before I close, I just want to say hello to Tom and all his mates at Middleton Rangers under 9s. Good luck for your next match, mate. I hope you win. I know you had a big win last time out, so good luck, big fella. Bet responsibly. Don't overdo it tomorrow. But yeah, Dan Burn, 18-1. Get your money on that.
Good stuff. Good shout. Thanks to you for that. And thanks to Paul as well. Scunny Mag, I don't think I said that, but thank you, Paul, for your wonderful reviews. And only a couple more to go this season. Joe, where was the tip for the 200-1 winner at Newcastle Races today, says Johnny Allen?
Was it Brown and had 4 legs? It was always going to
win. Yes, that's a one you give us for the national as well. I should have learned from my mistakes there.
Hey, stick with me, kid.
Incidentally, 1,050 of you watching tonight. We'll never take that for granted. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Over 400 of you watching on Twitter. So please jump onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. It does make a big difference to us. It is free and we do 7 shows a week. And big thanks to everybody down at Gateshead. It was nice to get down there to watch Gateshead versus York today. Bad result for the Heat Army today. They lost 3-1 to York, but great day. Great to catch up with a lot of lads I haven't seen for a while. And yeah, it was a good game of football, but just not the Tynesiders' day today. Okay, George, coming to you first. And from your perspective, George, I mean, I think we've discussed it this week already. It's a tough game. It was a tough week. Let's face it, Manchester United, Crystal Palace and Villa on paper was a tough week, but Newcastle have got 6 points. Can they get 9, George?
Well, I've already given my forecast, I think, on Fans Forum. So, yes, I think we can. It is a tough week. But what we've shown since the Carabao Cup final is that we're not just good now, we're resilient as well. We're capable of absorbing and coming back for more. So I'm quite still in my optimistic self that it'll be a brilliant game. I've no doubt about that. And we will outsmart them. I saw nothing against PSG that made me panic or think that something amazing would happen from them. The only thing I'd say about Marcus Rashford is I'm delighted to see how he's proven that idiot manager wrong, that who kneeled before Ratcliffe to get him out of Old Trafford because of his wages, because that's the only reason it happened. Yeah, I just as optimistic as ever, and hard game, tough game, but we seem to be able to go to hard and tough games and come out in the right place at the other side. So I'm. Do you want to forecast?
Yeah, give us it again.
Well, I said 2-0 on Monday, and I'm not going to change. I still think it'll be 2-0 to us on Saturday.
Okay, my prediction, in case anyone missed it, is 3-2 to Newcastle. I fancy an Alexander Isak hat-trick tomorrow as well. He's back on fire. But 3-2 to Newcastle. I think it's going to be a humdinger of a game. Joe?
I hope you're right, mate. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? I'm just looking there. I've just noticed in the chat some people wondering, I haven't got a price for if we'll finish second or not. But between Bournemouth, Villa, Chelsea, Forest, Man City and us, we're absolutely miles clear favourites to finish in the top 4. And that includes above Man City and Forest, so the bookies fancy us. The game tomorrow, yeah, it'll be tough, but we kind of went into Wednesday night with people saying this will be a tough game. They're a good side, and that ridiculous as a penalty effort aside, we just demolished them like we demolished Manchester Reds on the Sunday before. So we've got to go in this, maximum confidence. We've got, like I said earlier, arguably the best midfielder in the league, if not on the planet at the moment, playing for us. And strikers that are just turning everything into gold. So why not? I mean, yeah, I'm quite enjoying this, me getting carried away and being a bit negative, and like I keep saying, you get Eddie Howe out of that dugout, and look, we're the best attacking team in the world. So yeah, let's go to Villa Park. Tongue firmly in cheek there before the comments blow up. We're on fire. it looks like we can beat anybody at the moment, and I'll include Aston Villa in that. So we'll win 2-0.
2-0. Just seeing David John Cook's thing there has just reminded me. He says, I really don't want Man U to get ECL, so very disappointed last night. Come on, Bilbao. Yeah, I did jump too early last night, David. I watched the game up until it was 4-2. I then messaged Melly and said, Europe's not for everybody. Yes, exactly. And then they came back and won 5-4. I then had a multitude of phone calls and then a multitude of voice messages from Melly telling us to answer my phone. Needless to say, I didn't. But yes, Melly, yes, you had your moment there. We've had me and him have some backwards and forwards, which it would make a show in itself, our WhatsApp chat, backwards and forwards about football. But that's only because we're both passionate about our clubs. But well done, Melly. Yes, you had your little moment last night. I bet you were over the moon about it. And probably didn't make up for last weekend, though, when we beat you 4-1 and did the double over you. Just a little reminder, come back down to earth now. And you've still got to negotiate a semi-final. 7-1 top 2. Thank you, Steve. Steve, your feelings about this game tomorrow?
It's another game to look forward to. It's hard to believe that sort of 9 or 10 weeks ago I was saying to people, you know what, they've really got to pull their socks up and they've got to turn up, because there was a period in January, February where it was like, this squad needs a lift. They need a pick up. Since the cup final, I'm no longer saying that. I'm saying this squad will turn up. This team will turn up. This team will perform, because in every single game from Wembley onwards, that's what they've done, and so they continue to do. And hence the reason why Jason Tindall said in his press conference that really the team's picking itself, unless somebody's out of form or struggling with a knock. It's a straight 11. You know, the same 11 as the previous week, as it has done for the last 6 games. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable, isn't it? What we're looking at the game tomorrow. The thing with Villa don't play a particularly high tempo game. They tend to stroke the ball around, and I think that could play into our hands, because it makes it an awful lot easier for us to press them. They do rely on, when they play the ball at the back, that they've got a goalkeeper in Martinez who can use his feet and get around. But I don't think he comes across every week with a player like Alexander Isak breathing down his throat. So I think that is something that's going to be a fascinating little battle. There's always a fascinating little battle, isn't there? And we've seen it in the last few weeks between Argentinians and Brazilians. And we've got another one tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see whether Joe Linton and Bruno start peppering the Martinez goal. I'm sure that they would love to put something past him. So there's some little internals there to really get our teeth into. It's interesting as well that people are, the Villa fans are quite downbeat when you look at some of the comments that have been coming out. Quite downbeat about tomorrow. They're worried. They're worried about Newcastle United. They're worried. You're seeing it in the comments that Newcastle United, they're playing really well, or this is not the Newcastle United that we've come across in the past. And you think, well, it is, because we keep taking points off you. But I think that it could go 2 ways for Villa tomorrow, couldn't it? They're either going to come out absolutely firing to let their fans know that they're not going to sit back and just take the punch on the nose that they got on Wednesday night, sorry. But or they could go into their shell, and they could just, the season could just fitter out for them. The pressure could come too much for the teams that are around them. They could look at Chelsea and say, "Oh, we're not going to do anything there." We could look at Man City and go, "You know what? We're actually chasing 6th here." I don't think they are, because I think the Forest situation is starting to sort of brew, if you like, in terms of their confidence and whether they can basically hold on for a Champions League place. Everybody's saying Villa, like you said it, Steve, they've had 15 games unbeaten, only lost once at home since the opening game against Arsenal. but they've only had 8 wins and 7 draws, so it's not as though that, yes, they can hold on to a game or they can come back when it's a 2-1 with minutes to go, or 1-1 or whatever, they're good at fighting back in that respect, but they're not turning teams over at home. Only 8 wins. So there's got to be opportunities and question marks there. And I think there's certainly going to be goals. We only need another 9 goals this season to hit a century. I think the only team that scored more goals at home in the Premier League is Liverpool, and there's only one team scored more goals at home for us, more goals than us at home in Europe, and that's Bayern Munich, and that's testament to our attacking prowess. And I think we can take that attacking prowess into the game tomorrow, and I'm going to forecast a 3-1 win to Newcastle. I'm going to go for a penman. Put the pressure on Stewie.
Okay, last word today to Mitch and the dice, of course.
I think Steve certainly made the point I was going to make is, yes, they've only lost 1 game at home, but they draw a lot of games at home. It's not a fortress, and I think a lot will depend on how they react to that loss in midweek or going out of the Champions League in midweek. They could go into their shells. There is a little bit of murmuring out of the Midlands that Rashford wasn't happy at being substituted. So you've got to wonder what dynamics are going on there now, and how does that affect his outlook, because they've been asked about his future and they've kind of given non-answer on it, really. That's, for their squad, probably not terribly helpful. They need Champions League money desperately, because even with that, they're going to be in a PSR position yet again, because their wages to turnover is something like 97%. It's crazy. It's Leeds numbers, and so they're going to be scrambling. So how they react to it all is very interesting. For me, the 2 results this week make this a free hit for us. If you'd said those 3 games, 6 points, I'd said, okay, take that. We've already got that with a healthy goal difference returned, and we can go there with a bit of freedom. Really, we've got the most dangerous striker in Europe, and we've got the best midfielder in Europe at the moment, in my opinion. I saw somebody say Sandro Tonali was playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers. I would suggest at the moment Sandro Tonali is playing 3D chess while everybody else is deciding what flavour the crayons are. I think that's the difference. That's the gap between Sandro Tonali at the moment and a lot of the other midfielders in the Premier League. And we are blessed to have him in that kind of form. In 2 games, he's gone past players at 90 minutes who've only been on the pitch for 20 minutes and made them look pedestrian. Just said, bye-bye, see you. That lad's engine is ridiculous. And I think the key is everybody wants to pinhole him as a 6 or an 8, or he's this. He's all of that. And he's anything he wants to be. And when he's doing that, that frees Bruno up to do other things. And that frees the wingers up to do other things. His reading of the game is next level. And so when we're blessed with all of that, and a defence who are looking more and more solid as every game they play together, and then the wild card of being galvanised by having an ill manager, and the fact that that manager's put processes in place and a mindset in place throughout the squad, that actually, if anything else, it's galvanised we're not having them on the touchline.
Yeah.
We're stuck to what he's installed in everybody, and we're delivering. It makes Saturday a free hit for me. We can just go for it. Now, do I think we're going to win? No, I actually think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a very hard contested 2-2. There you go. That's what I've been thinking all week. And I would take that. If you give me 7 points out of 9 over those 3 games, I think we'd have to be happy with that.
Okay, and what does the dice say?
The dice says 0-0.
Brilliant stuff.
What?
Great,
0-0.
brilliant stuff. Thank you to Denise Applewhite. She is the winner of the Peter Beardsley signed T-shirt.
Well done,
which,
Denise. Well done,
is,
Denise.
£30 going to Dementia Connections, North Tyneside Age UK. Thank you, Denise. I'll be in touch about how you can pay that over ASAP. Paul Charlton's flag. There it is in all its glory.
Get in.
Brilliant, Paul.
NUFC Matters in the top corner, and that's going, I believe it's going to Villa Park tomorrow. So it'll be making its debut tomorrow. And he's also got the Tune Review and the Magpie channel on there as well. So thank you very much, Paul. You didn't have to do that, but really appreciate you doing it. And we will be keeping our eyes open on TV. Okay, going to sign off with a bit of Elliot. I had a prostate examination this morning. The doctor gave me the thumbs up.
Oh,
Great
Oh,
stuff,
dear.
Elliot. Thank you for that. And thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Great show, as always. Been a wonderful week, actually. And we've never had a bad show, I don't think, since the Cup final. Been some ups and downs. The Fans Forum, if you haven't watched it, give it a watch on Monday. Darren was in full argument mode. So well worth giving that a watch. But back tomorrow with a happy Smuggy and an upset Mackham, I think. Or was it a happy... Yeah, it was, yeah, because the Mackhams got beaten, Borough won. So we'll be talking North East football in the morning at 10 o'clock. And the professionals will be back to look back at the Villa game at 5 o'clock on Sunday. But have a good Easter weekend, whatever you're doing. And big thank you to Mitch, to Steve, to Joe, and to George. Take care. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.